I didn't think we could fall in love. Broken from the start, chained to our past. We had closed hearts.
Hello and welcome back, everyone, to the second half of the first day of the second semester of yet another season here at EGF. Sir Waltham, Twin Salty, back at the casting desk. The first time we've been together, Twin Salty, so excited to work with you, my friend.
Yeah, I'm excited. First split for me with EGF. Glad to be here and a first time casting with you as well. So it is bound to be a great set of 8 to 9 weeks here of just Overwatch action. And we actually have a really good game for our game one today.
We certainly do. It's going to be RIT versus University of Delaware, and definitely looking excited as to seeing what these two teams are going to be bringing towards each other. As I like to say sometimes, sometimes those semester breaks kind of allow the rust to come online, allow the rust to kind of settle, or it allows these teams to even more so solidify their play. So definitely interested in seeing which angle these teams are going to take. As you can see there just a moment ago, we're going to be starting off with Nepal, Kings Row, and then Hanamura to start us off for our first three maps. And if we need more, we'll get them eventually.
Yeah, we'll get to Dorado and Lijiang maybe in hours. So we obviously hope that, we always want game 4, game 5.
Oh, yeah.
It makes for a better series, makes for a better storyline. I think this one could give us it. RIT 4-4, Delaware 5-3, both very similar, both coming in from this the East region. So cannot wait to see. This is battling for critical conference placements right now. They're both sitting at about, I think, RIT's 1-1, Delaware's 2-1 in the conference. These games could be huge to see where they end up in 8 or 9 weeks time.
It's very exciting for me, Salty. I don't know if you're familiar with it yet, but I've been in here a while, and these teams definitely a lot of the times tend to trend towards that 3-0 status. So anytime there's any possibility or whisperings of maybe a 4 or maybe a 3-1, a 2-3, maybe I've had one game go 6 rounds and it was the best I've ever had. But really, you don't get that very often, and so the fact that these two teams are so close is definitely something to watch out for.
Yeah, as you said, RIT, every single game in the fall split was either an 0-3 loss or a 3-0 win. It was nothing in between, kind of going insane. Delaware had a few that were like 3-1s, but it was basically around the same idea, and I can't wait to see where this is going to go. And we also do have, just got to shout out the other two streams going on, our brilliant broadcast crews going on. You have in St. John's against Tennessee Knoxville over at official EGF2 and UT Arlington versus Wichita State, which that is a fantastic game. That's over at twitch.tv/official EGF. But for now, we're going to focus on RIT and Delaware, as I believe we're about to get set for Nepal in our map 1.
Certainly are. And Twin, what do you expect to come out here on Nepal? We know it's a control map where you have to have that King of the Hill kind of play style, a little bit more deathmatchy, as we like to start off these best of 5s or first to 3s, I should say. What do you think we expect to see?
I'm expecting to see something niche to come out. I wasn't picking a Bastion though. We'll see if Delaware kind of sticks with that or not. But I want to see something niche. As you said, you want to get some of that rust off from the semester. It does look like they're going to swap. So that would have been great, though, to see a Bastion on our first ever map of this the spring split. But I want to see something interesting. You're going to see Pines on the sim. So is Nate, but those are probably just going to be for coming out of spawn. And then we'll have to see what each of them go. Pines is going to go to the Tracer. Nate's going to go over to the Soldier. Double Shield versus Rush. RIT, if they can close that gap, they're going to be able to win this first fight.
Going to remain to be the question here as we look. University of Delaware going to be locking in that Junkrat, just trying to get some early damage with those pipes, with those grenades, trying to make any sort of connection as well, build up a nice tire. And RIT has that tempo, has that Lucio to get them a little bit faster, but they can't quite close the gap in time. Seb going to be taken down, and now with that, they're man down, and it's going to be tough for them to regain composure, regather themselves, especially with Delaware already taking point presence.
Yeah, already on the point, starting to get the percentage up, and it is just a battle of styles right now. So you have RIT, as we kind of hinted to, they want to run in your face. They want to rush as this huge death ball, and Delaware want to keep the distance 24/7. They're just going to let them start getting captured at this point. They're going to let them capture it because they know in the long run of this fight, they should be able to bring this back if they can continue that long-range poke.
Absolutely, that sage advice of win the war, not the battle. And you can see Nate 12 playing off to the side here, just trying to rein in those shots. I was talking about Pod trying to get those rip tires and get those huge impacts. That's exactly what they got. Pines now taken down. Immortality field no longer going to be an issue as well. And this is a rough spot for RIT to be. They are just so cramped in these tight, close quarters. That's not where you want to be against the Junkrat, and especially not against the Tac Visoring Soldier.
Yeah, definitely not where you want to be. They do get 27%, but as you said, you want to win the war, not just the battle. And Delaware won the battle there for sure, and are looking to win the war overall. At least so far. Obviously, we're very early on here, but RIT, you just got to think something has to change a little bit. Seb is not even at 50% to shatter, just because they haven't seen anybody. They're not really swinging at anybody. They're more like, all right, shoot my shield when the rest of my team moves forward, just like right now, and that shield goes away very quickly.
And Seb trying to close that gap exactly as you were saying, Twin, but they immediately get halted backwards, and Pines trying to cause a little bit of chaos, throw that pulse mine into the mix, can't quite make it connect, however. It's going to be the Transcendence coming in from Hyper, keeping Delaware up for the time being, and with that, RIT still has not gotten that big hit opportunity. It's going to be the Amplification Matrix coming through. With that, RIT going to be looking to divert instead attention onto point directly, making Delaware have to try to contest or lose more progress. Not a way they want to be in. Another Riptire going out, catches the Lucio, was just outside of that Immortality field. And once again, it's progress all taken up for RIT, but University of Delaware seem to have clutched it out so far.
And I had a little bit of word here, as you know, these last few members of RIT are going to get staggered out. But Twinkle Toes, they went out to try and touch point. They got taken out early. It just seemed like a huge kind of miscommunication on, all right, are we touching point? Are we going to let them cap? But in the end, they still bring it back. They have to use a few more resources than what they wanted to. And now RIT, they have Pines now on the Cassidy, going to try and at least match the long range a little bit more than they were. And they have a few ultimates. They need to win this fight and not just get the point. They need to win the actual fight, and that is not a good start.
Oh, but that's a great return. Seb not able to land the ultimate, but Foliage able to get two for it, including the Immortality field. Nate going to be trying to literally return fire, not able to find much, though. RIT really had to invest quite some good ults into that.
They did, but they still have Window, and they still have Diva Bomb, so I guess not all is lost. Now you're going to have about a 4-2 difference here on ultimates. Delaware still has the ult advantage, but can they close the gap yet again? They're going to try and push this corner. They get Twinkle, and now the bomb, not really able to get anything.
Oh, no.
Is such incredibly big brain from Seb. Breaks the Riptire, and that is the break RIT needed.
I think I have to give credit where credit's due. Pod perhaps just a little bit too ambitious with that Riptire. I think Seb just reacting accordingly. But either way, RIT going to be able to have the pot lid on this point so far. One last push, and it looks like Delaware are going to have the opportunity here. We do see that Gravitic Flux online, and as we know, RIT playing a very clustered comp. It's going to make him very susceptible to this Gravitic Flux, but the Immortality field does save the damage, at least save the Diva from getting demeched. Pod able to get one. That Cassidy no longer a factor in this fight, but the double boop coming in from Storm's Eye, turning things around. And just like that, RIT, who are looking all but lost in some of these fights, have managed to make this their own. They've won Sanctum. The Riptire's coming out, trying to contest something, but it only eats into a sound barrier.
Yeah, count me impressed, RIT, for bringing that back. I thought that round was over once Delaware won that second fight to where, all right, we're going to let RIT build up 10 or 20%, and then we're going to cap. But RIT, they made those little small adjustments. Pines going on the Cassidy, it worked out, and they learned to play around the double shield a little bit more. And then once they capture the point, they get to play at their speed, at their choke points, not the ones of University of Delaware. So now as we enter this second round, it's going to be more of the same, but this time I'm not sure RIT's going to know it or not, but Delaware, they'll be running more of a six-man look, kind of that deathball-y comp. That'll be a little bit more of a clash of the Titans on point than it was last round.
Well, it gives the Rhine Seb the opportunity to swing perhaps a little bit more heavy than we saw before. Certainly won't be jostled around with that at Orisa to halt them into place. And just like that, RIT going to immediately be getting into point. Pod trying to go in for hacks onto Seb, does so successfully, but takes quite a bit of damage, has to back out, and Seb in the meanwhile can still swing that big Ola hammer, allow just a huge amount of damage, and it's going to take down Hyper early on as well. Big Lenny getting demexed. The Sim does go down, but that looks like it's going to be a Pyrrhic victory for Delaware so far. RIT able to stabilize and hold this point.
And as we were saying, like, this comp now, RIT, they know how to go against this. But pretty similar to theirs as long as they can avoid the hacks. They're just going to press W. Seb does get hacked, but he'll be completely fine as he has the rest of his team there. But actually does force out the immortality field from Poppy. Going to force RIT to back up and maybe gets a little oh no. Not as much value as they thought.
Did stop Twinkle Toes from getting onto point as well. Allowed Foliage to lock them down with that Deadeye on the Casty. Foliage now trying to take the shots with the Reaper. Can't quite make them connect, but University of Delaware still has not penetrated onto this point since that very first engagement. And it looks like they're very anemic on taking these fights.
Yeah, Delaware just can't figure out how they want to engage. The only ultimate they brought up was Jono's, and don't have that now. Used their last fight to no avail, and now as they're trying to rotate in this right side, you just can't you have to use the perfect amount of ultimates, but you still need to be able to start rotating those ults if you capture the point.
It's not a great start for Delaware. They're using a lot of these resources just to get immediately onto point, meaning they're not going to have them should they be able to actually get toes on. It's going to be Sound Barrier as well. Engaged to drop it in. Nate going to be dropping in the Death Blossom, getting one and the D-Mech. Storm's Eye getting hacked out, has that Sound Barrier, continuing to get hacked, not allowed to get those abilities and those resources off.
Yeah, and that was huge from Nate 12 because they saw Foliage. They Foliage used the flashbang, and as soon as that happened, went and used Death Block. Because that's the only thing that could have stopped them in their ultimate. Yes, you use AMP. Yes, you use Death Blossom, but you still have two ults, and you're using Coalescence right now. That's honestly not a bad exchange if you're Delaware.
The question, Junao using that Coalescence a little bit early. I think Twinkle Toes may have dove in a bit deep. Junao might have had to panic and try to just keep them alive so they could take a full 6v6, but RIT able to just temper their forces, back off, and not really take too much damage for it. Deadeye comes through, takes down Hyper, that Cassidy getting one for it. RIT now in man advantage position here, but the Primal Rage is going to come around, start to jostle around a couple members of RIT. Earthshatter comes in, only lands onto Junao, but that's going to be enough to take down the Moira. This Primal still trying to rage onto point, but it only rages against nothing. University of Delaware now losing member after member, and they don't even match RIT's progress yet.
Yeah, they haven't even matched it. They're going to get close with the staggers. We're going to have to see how long it goes. I'm guessing probably cap at about 60. Yeah, who even is stalling? It's been Pod, and it looked like it was Hyper stalling for a bit. They get to 62, so almost as close as you can get. Those one HP. 1 HP gets out with their life. I'm not even sure. Oh, you got to be a little upset if you're Pines. You almost got a free elimination and even more time off the clock. But if you're RIT, you win this. You win the map, and you go into map 2 with a 1-0 lead. Let's see if Delaware can match.
Well, to be fair, if you're Pines, you don't know exactly how low your opponent was based off of that turret, but either way, still a very good point. A huge opportunity could have been had there, but RIT going to be happy to be building up towards that 100%. Either way, Viz now has this Diva Bomb. Once this bubble goes down, anticipate looking to send it out, nothing to block it in. High Noon goes out, Hyper taken down by the Deadeye. Coalescence gonna be thrown in as well. Nate trying to drop the Death Blossom, make the change here. This comes in with the double kill. It's so crucial, but it's not crucial enough. RIT not able to hold on. Foliage trying their hardest to play around this wall, but eventually just gets cleaned up by the overwhelming force. Storm's Eye, the last one on point before it eventually will flip.
Yeah, it's almost like the unstoppable force and the immovable object. Eventually, one's gonna give, and that time it was Delaware, and now RIT, you gotta worry a little bit. The only support and the only ultimates you have are from Storm and Poppy. Granted, Delaware used a lot that fight as well. They're gonna have a sound barrier of their own. The big thing is Big Lenny. Can you get a big Diva Bomb? They're gonna see it right away. They put it in an awkward area, and they're not gonna get anything, but they do force out the immortality field.
Pines is taken down early. That means that Sim not going to be able to build up that charge, make her more powerful as this fight goes along. One of the most important mid-fight characters to go through, and we can see Pines acknowledging that, switching immediately onto the Reaper, just trying to get a little bit more punch should their team be able to touch. 95%, it looks like RIT will be able to touch. They have to use Sound Barrier just to get on point, and now it's RIT reacting with abilities, having to just try whatever they can to get there. And like their former opponents, it looks like it's working this time around. University of Delaware DPS suffering, supports suffering. Earthshatter goes out. Foliage taking down that Moira mid-fall. It's going to be the Deadeye trying to come through. Doesn't connect courtesy of an EMP, but Delaware doesn't seem to have the manpower, the staying power to maintain themselves just yet. Pod has to back out, play so far away from the rest of their team. That Primal going to buy a little bit of time, but the Death Blossom gets one more. Nate 12 trying to make it happen. Another self-destruct coming in from Viz.
Another self-destruct coming in, as you said, and now point has flipped officially in the favor of RIT, still in overtime. Delaware coming back into the fight. Pines looking for a Death Blossom, but gonna get hacked. Gonna be very close to that, though, as soon as they are out of the hack. And now 95% gonna be looking for it, shooting up the ball, trying to shoot through the window to build it. And now with that sound barrier on top of them, and the D.Va out of mech, here they go, looking for it. Gonna try and, they're actually gonna wait. Just gonna try and get the D.Va out of mech, and it might risk them.
That is a very crucial kill to come through. That Reaper once again can just get so nestled in. EMP goes out, only gets 2. Poppy take it down though, no immortality field. Viz soon for the fall as well. Foliage just trying to play as fast around as they can, and you have to remember RIT has the advantage here. They have possession of point, meaning if they get off, they still have to wait a bit for their opponents to convert it, and that's exactly what we're seeing. Delaware slowly going to get the flip, but that overtime's going to burn fast.
Yeah, and Pines doesn't realize it. Pines thinks it's going to be a little bit slower, and we're going to go to a round 3. What other way do we want to start off this split, Waltham? And it's, you wonder if they wanted just a little bit too much with that Death Blossom, right? Like, were they asking for a little bit too much? Honestly, obviously, you want to avoid the D.Va bomb. But I think at that point, as soon as that bomb goes off, you just try and get the unmech D.Va. And you just run with it at that point. If you get one, you get one. You're still alive. And instead, tries to wait that extra second, gets hacked, gets taken out. And the rest of the dominoes fall from there. And as we enter Village now, you're going to see some of those Sim May strats coming out. Both teams with the exact same composition. At least out of spawn, we'll see if Pines or Nate 12 stick or stay. I believe they're going to stay, though, I would assume. And they both will. Who is going to be able to establish control on that point first? And it looks like... and it's going to be a Delaware from the looks of it.
Nice read from Pod, almost sectioning off their own D.Va, but they decide, no, just wait a second. Their opponents don't necessarily have that positioning of their own, but now it's University of Delaware who are all trapped against the wall. Doesn't matter, it's going to be the Storm's Eye who falls first. You see now Delaware continuing to get these initial kills onto RIT. The wall's trying to go up, but it just looks like the map control is so much better from Delaware.
Yeah, it's so much better, and that is the difference of even where you come out of spawn and how fast you can get the teleporter down. It was maybe a quarter to a half of a second difference between when RIT got to point and when Delaware got to point, because Delaware got there just that half second quicker. They're able to set up the turrets from Nate 12, use the Maywall from Pod efficiently and offensively and not defensively, and that sets them up to start taking up this point.
Oh, look at this here. We have University of Delaware already with an Earthshatter. First fight's just gone down. Poppy takes a loss. That means that Earthshatter, should it connect, not going to be able to be not have any of that death prevented. RIT decides to just back out. They don't want to take another lost fight like that.
Yeah, you already lose 2, and Nate's going to take advantage of that Maywall just sitting there, but not really going to be able to get too much from it, as the rest and the entirety of Rochester Institute of Technology still waiting, trying to get back together before they move into this next fight. As you said, Twinkle Toes still has the shatter. Seb, probably now is an idea that they have it online. Last fight, I don't think they would have been able to guess that, but now, as they're trying to look in, Simwall goes down, and yeah, you can tell Twinkle Toes, he's getting pretty anxious for that shatter.
Both of these teams throwing up those walls, making it harder for everybody, but it seems the Reinhardts to kind of fire through and get that damage. Twinkle Toes holding right on this corner. It's going to be the Blizzard coming out from both sides, as a matter of fact. A little bit of a brief pause coming in on this game. Storm's Eye going to be taken down by that chip damage from the Blizzard, excuse me. RIT now going to be looking to leverage themselves a little bit more. That teleporter set up for a quick escape should it be needed, or rather the quick entry rather. The Earthshatter goes in, but it lands bigger for Seb. So much time spent waiting, and really you didn't get much if your Twinkle Toes self-destruct goes in, and RIT might claim it back off the back of Viz and Seb.
Yeah, what a bomb from Viz, and the sound barrier as well from Hyper is going to go to waste. I thought, you know, maybe that brings it back just because it was such a huge shatter from Seb, as it was just the mind games. You could tell they were each kind of giving each other looks like, all right, you gonna shatter, you gonna shatter? And eventually Twinkle Toes shatters into the Maywall. Seb takes advantage, knocks down 4, and the snowball starts going at that point. And now Rochester, you gotta try and hold this point for as long as you can, because if you lose one fight, you're going into OT. You really don't want to be there for this map 1.
Certainly no team wants to be at that initial map advantage. That D.Va bomb goes in. Maywall prevents anybody from getting repositioned, but Storm's Eye going to be the only one who's primarily sectioned off. Eventually breaks that wall, gives the sound barrier to the rest of their team, but RIT already member down. Pine's going to be taken out of this fight. Immortality field, however, for Delaware also now out. It's going to be the proton barrier coming out from Sim. And right now, RIT can just sit happy behind it, let their Reinhardt just keep swinging, dissuading anybody from entering it, and it's exactly what we're seeing. Delaware does not want to take that.
Yeah, and it allows everybody from RTY to regroup. I believe they lost one early on, and yeah, it was the Sim. Now they are back online. Seb's looking for the Shatter again, going to try and put it down. Now that the Reinhardt of Delaware is gone, they may not even need it this fight. They already got two. Going to be trying to get the third here as the Symmetra just kind of accepting their fate. And yeah, what discipline from Seb, realizing even though the Reinhardt of Delaware not there, still don't have to use it if I don't need to. And now this potentially most important fight of this entire map is both teams have ultimates on the ready. Delaware has a slight ult advantage, where Rochester has some of their own.
Delaware might have the ultimate advantage, but RIT definitely has that point advantage. You're now going to be pushing into a Mei, pushing into a Sim. Those both defensive characters going to give you a lot of options. Seb has the opportunity for an Earth Shatter here, but not if they get taken down because of this Blizzard. It's going to be the return Blizzard coming out from Foliage, but so far it looks like it's favoring Delaware. Ultimate's going in their way, that Sound Barrier, that Proton Barrier, a lot of barriers, and not even the shield kind being thrown out onto the field right now, but Delaware's going to be cleaning up 93%. You have to think it's going to be tough to contest.
Yeah, I don't think anybody, especially with that Mei. That's just rude, Pod. You don't even give them a chance to try and touch, but Delaware, what a turnaround. They looked more dominant at times. Rochester also punched back, and if that's what this entire series is going to be, give us more, because that was just a great map of Overwatch.
Absolutely, couldn't argue more about that. Both these teams taking it in some pretty unique way, not unique ways, but dynamic ways, going against one another. It seems like we kind of already got a feel for how these teams want to play against one another, and the way that, or the team that gets to play that way will have that preferred match.
Yeah, it's almost as, as we kind of talked about earlier, it's just that battle of playstyle. Who is going to be able to adapt? Because we saw it earlier on, round one. We saw, all right, RIT has this double shield look. They look really comfortable on it. And eventually Delaware started to figure it out. Other way around. Sorry, Delaware had the double shield. RIT had to kind of adjust and moved around it, and they won that round. And then kind of the opposite way, you worry about the zombie comp that they were running, but then, you make the small adjustments, making sure you use your flashbang accordingly, and you can win the rounds. So now as we get ready for King's Row, it's just going to be rush mayhem, I have a feeling. It'll be more of the same of what we just saw in that final round. Maybe not the Sim as much, but I think the Maze could definitely play a factor if they choose to.
I think I tend to agree here. Of course, we know King's Row, one of the most iconic Rhine maps. Would not be surprised, especially since we both saw both of these teams run it. Would not be surprised if we saw that come to fruition here, especially on this first point, especially on the second point, especially on the third point, especially everywhere in King's Row, basically. The off tank or the second tank pick has kind of been up in the air as of lately. Sometimes we've seen D.Va. Sometimes you see that good old classic Zarya that allows for that high charge, high damage. Although, for the time being, RIT does look like they're going to lock Viz into the D.Va.
Yeah, Viz me on the D.Va. I'm more interested to see Delaware. It looks like, I can't tell if Pod's trolling again. It's either Pod is trolling again, and he's probably going to, I'm guessing, a Hanzo, or maybe we have a Sim Bastion look. I know we had some on the stream earlier today. Didn't work out too well. But maybe they're going to try and make it work. Big Lenny as well. On the Sigma, we've seen that. Maybe not as much in competitive play, but in the ranked playlist and competitive online, we've seen a little bit more of the Rhine and Sig together, especially when you're going to run this Bastion teleport strat on top of statue. So Big Lenny will teleport up with Pod. Big Lenny's going to put the shield up, and Pod's just going to rain from above. And I don't know if RIT is going to be able to realize that it happened yet. And far, actually, they actually counter it quite well. Everybody just hides in a hotel, and they live for now.
And I like to call that the Mondada's hat, because you just teleport right on top of that statue. And right now, Delaware doing a great job of cutting out a large swath of the point that RIT just has to surrender or get gunned down. That Maywall is going to help. Twinkletoes not able to receive the benefit of Pod because of that. And RIT actually able to cope with that Bastion pretty well. They do give up a tick, so they can't do that every time.
Yeah, they can't be doing that every time. I have a feeling, Delaware's going to swap. Pod's going to go on to the Mei now. Nate's maybe going back onto the Widow. No, they're going to go to the Hanzo. Big Lenny now on the D.Va as well. Nate's actually going to make me wrong and now go to the Cassidy. But now we're going back to a traditional look, kind of a hybrid of what we saw in Nepal from both sides, except the Hanzo is completely new from Pines. But So far, yeah, to be running at each other. Maywall is already used in window. Oh my,
Ooh.
that is a fat shatter.
A nice shatter onto both the tanks, and Delaware, however, don't get brought down because of it just yet. Twinkle Toes does go for a quick little dip back into the spawn room, but so far this fight not out of their grasp. It does look like they will back out, though they don't want to take the fight without a full.
Yeah, not gonna take, just gonna back out eventually, but it's like, yeah, we're gonna demech Viz, make them not able to build that ult charge, make sure that, you know, maybe it takes a little bit, maybe we can get a late stagger onto them if possible, but they know that's probably asking for, I say it's almost asking for too much, as Viz almost got an icicle straight to the forehead. And now Delaware, you really only have 1 or 2 more fights, and well, instead of icicle, you got a fire strike, Viz. Sorry that Christmas came a little late.
Oh man, so unfortunate. Viz actually kind of tilted into that as well. Delaware now with that opening just going to be running onto point. No first point hold for RIT. Now we go on to Streets phase, and I wonder if the comp's going to change from Delaware.
Yeah, I wonder. I don't think it'll change quite yet because obviously you just worked right there. You got a little bit lucky with Viz being out of mech, but so far you trying to run with this newer composition, especially, you know, you have the Deadeye up, Blizzard's up soon. Actually both tanks, but Twinkle only is the one that has the Rhine Shatter online. So RIT, you know, you gotta look for maybe a Diva Bomb here, maybe a Dragon Strike from Pine to try and split up Delaware and just rush into the half you see more favorable. And as they're gonna rush up now, walls used. Not really. 7 that's gonna get stuck, and there's the Dragons.
A lot of ultimates coming out from all the DPS players. Dragons, Blizzard, High Noon, Deadeye rather. It's going to be Pod trying to lock down Viz, and once again the late kill onto that Diva. Well, previously early, now currently late. Gonna be affecting this tempo, making it so much harder for RIT to get the second contest.
Yeah, it's going to be real tough. You know, they only have 1 on the payload right now, trying to push the advantage as much as they can, but Cart's not going to be moving as fast as they could have it moving, and it seems like Delaware going to be able to recontest here at... Actually, not Delaware. RIT should be able to recontest as long as they can get past the walls. As Twinkle Toes looking for a shatter. Maybe we're going to try and see if Seb puts it down. There goes the bomb and back. Not able to get anything. Oh, Viz! Oh, he hits the remake as well!
That is a huge turnaround for RIT. They have that steel nerve that allows them to just hold until those very last moments, using the Maywall, using that self-destruct, and it comes out in a great way there. Sure, you let that card get almost to second point, but the key word is almost.
Yeah, almost, but not completed. And yeah, RIT can now set up. Yes, they had to use 3 ultimates that fight. And it's obviously not what you want to do. Sorry, 2 ultimates, because Pines did swap onto the Cassidy to match Nate. But, you know, you still have Shatter from Seb, and you still have the Blizzard. And to me, a Blizzard battle, usually we've seen them use at the same time, but Pod doesn't have it yet. Oh, it's actually eaten! Big Lenny eats the Blizz!
Big Lenny, excellent performance there. No Blizzard success for Foliage, and the Earth Shatter also doesn't seem to land a whole lot, but that's matched by Twinkle Toes, who seems to sink it right into the shield of Seb. A little bit grimy of a fight right now. Both these teams just going forehead to forehead, but it's RIT who seems to have the thicker skull.
Yeah, so far has that thicker skull. Is a very scrappy fight from both sides. If you're the coach for either of these teams, you're probably... Oh, that was a nice shot. Probably shaking your heads a little bit because it could have been played a lot more cleanly. But, you know, you still get it done. That's all that matters. You get it done if you are RIT. Just over a minute and a half left for Delaware. And now Nate over to the Hanzo. Now Pines is also in that awkward position. All right, I just swapped to try and match you on the Cassidy. And then you're going to what I was running. But... you're going to be looking for that Deadeye soon here. And a big thing, if either of the Divas can eat up these ultimates, and it's a no for both, it looks like.
Oh, it's not even about the Diva for Delaware this time around. It's about the freeze coming in. Pod 36,000 landing a huge Blizzard, getting 3 members assisted and removed off the field. And just like this, I was thinking that maybe those support ultimates would have to come into play here, but it's not even necessary. University of Delaware makes that second.
Yeah, they get second, and they enter the third phase, I should say, of this map. 2.5 minutes on the clock, and they're able to at least hold up to this potentially final corner, unless RIT really pushes their agenda to hold first. But yeah, it doesn't seem like they'll be able to hold that first corner. Window used early from Joano, and now Delaware just making even more space.
An excellent opportunity to use that Matrix. Doesn't necessarily result in too many kills. You might be questioning that, but... progress is progress, whether it comes through kills or pressure. Sound barrier now coming in from Hyper to keep their team healed up through that Blizzard. doesn't keep them healed up enough as Twinkle Toes eventually does fall, caught right on the front line, no shield to save them. Maywall going to be coming in from both sides, but it's a lot more crucial from RIT as the May and D.Va both get sectioned off.
Both get sectioned off, both get staggered, and now you got to wait even longer if you're Delaware. And you don't have a ton to work with because you had to use Soundbarrier last night to counter out the Blizzard from Foliage. So you have, yeah, bomb from Big Lenny, even though Viz has been getting better at the D.Va bombs up to this point. We'll see if that's the same this fight. That might be the difference maker. So see if Seb can land the Shadow. There goes the bomb over the top. Gonna get nobody. Now Dragons tries to split up the defense.
Not exactly a huge fan of the placement of those Dragons, but we're going to see one kill come out from it for Nate 12 either way. Pine's now going to be taken out of the fight as well. Nate 12's seeming to be the superior Hanzo in here, despite what this caster might have said. Twiggletoe's now going to be swinging, taking a little bit of a trip into the sky. Not going to matter, though, pushing the cart from behind, getting some of that passive healing. Support's not able to heal them up immediately, and Twinkletoe's so close to that Earth Shadow, they're certainly going to want it before this full team can regroup. Blizzard goes out, meaning that things only get a little bit more locked down for RIT. Those tanks have to be separated from the rest of their team. And such an opportunity comes in. Both tanks seem to whiff their Earth Shatters. Nobody lands anything off the back end of this, and I thought I was going to be praising Earth Shatters here, but in this entire game, it seems like we haven't been finding it. We're also not finding that Blizzard. This has been eaten by Big Lenny. University of Delaware now on the back out.
Yeah, Big Lenny just going to be able to reset here as, yeah, you're not going to be able to get out. Might as well not give all charge. But, yeah, as we said, you know, the Reinhardts, we thought, oh, who's me landing those shatters? There's been a lot of whiffs.
Yeah.
There's been a whole lot of whiffs during this game. It's been more of a story of the off tanks, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
And now that's going to be coming to a head again in this fight. Both of them getting close to another D.Va bomb and nice immortality field.
And it's a very good immortality field, but some nice pressure coming in from Delaware. Those Dragons sectioning them off between a Maywall, not allowing them to travel in the path they want to avoid. But right now, it doesn't matter the pathing as long as the kills are coming through for RIT, and that's exactly what we're seeing. Self-destruct trying to come in. Viz not able to get anything with it that time around, but still able to zone out, lock down this point. Overtime is ticking, so nobody from Delaware can leave cart. Otherwise, that overtime timer is going to burn down. Exactly what we're seeing. The healing amp coming in, but Storm able to keep their team up, and so far a decent push coming in from RIT. Or excuse me, from Delaware.
A decent push from Delaware, just couldn't get it over the finish line. We saw it at checkpoint B. It took them an extra few fights, and this time they wish they just had that one more fight to try and finish off this map. But win condition is set for Rochester Institute of Tech. You know, you just got to get it past that and into the third phase, past 67.41 meters. And we have an even series on our hands, and I honestly think they can do it if they play their cards right. And I just can't believe as you said, we've barely had any shot. It's been more of, all right, who's using their sound barriers correctly, which honestly Storm and Hyper both have been doing an amazing job of that. I honestly have no complaints from either side in that regard. And then Viz and Big Lenny. More Big Lenny eating the ultimates. I think they had 2 Blizzards they ate throughout that round.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And Viz as well just had huge D.Va bombs left and right. So who can make the difference here? And it looks like RIT maybe doing a different version of the statue strat that we saw Delaware use. Or that, or just running, you know, normal comp. I can't tell with foliage on that sim.
It's yeah, I like to put the disclaimer, you know, attacking teams, I never call them till they're actually out of the spawn. You can always change last minute, so if you get it wrong, I'm not going to hold it against you, Twin. You know, we're getting the cobwebs off on our casting. But yeah, you talk about those tanks, very different style, and one being much more effective defensively and one being much more effective offensively. See if it comes to bear here and see if that still holds true with Viz on the Sigma. I don't think we've seen them on the Sigma as much, preferring that D.Va pick instead. And Pines, yeah, is going to be going on to the Bastion, but we don't see the Mandata's Hat strategy coming through just yet. Foliage not setting up those teleporters in the immediate, instead giving themselves a little bit of time. But Pines lose their shield early on. Doesn't matter. They're posted up onto that high ground. Storm's Eye taking down the May. Pod not going to be able to provide those line of sight restrictions coming in for the side of Delaware. And now with this, Delaware has to try to make a contest here, but so far they're being very passive. They're not really taking these fights as aggressively because of that Bastion.
Yeah, that's the one thing that Delaware didn't do on their attack was, all right, keep their Bastion up on the statue, because that's exactly what you need them to do. Is just hold, so the defense can only go so far past that hotel before they get absolutely beamed, and they're actually going to stick to it for a little bit, I think, just because they're 2/3 of the way, I should say, to their ultimate. But I think, yeah, going to teleport up on the high ground, going to make sure they can hold this corner and have that cart make some progress. But so far, so good from RIT. And now you got to think, Delaware, you got to be hitting the panic button ever so slightly, even though you got a lot of map to go still.
You really do, but a good time so far from RIT, and they're still sticking on to this Bastion. That's one courtesy that Delaware was not given on their attack phase, and it's going to make them hard to push these two crooks down streets phase. Even this Lucio is trying to cruise the airwaves, does so successfully with a little bit of help from Nate, and gets Poppy down as well. This is a rough start for RIT. It seems like we've been saying that about them a lot more often, about their opponents rather. Viz enough to get that Gravitic Flux online, but not going to have the opportunity to use it this time around. They just want to save it for a full team fight.
Yeah, I just want to save it for that full team fight.
Cool.
Delaware, 4 ultimates on the board. Pod going to have one very soon as well. And RIT, very similar. 5 ultimates on the board. Pines, obviously, not going to have one just because he just swapped off the Bastion. But definitely, who can hit Q better this fight? You know, then we were going around this wide route, going to try and avoid that underhang choke. And yeah, Delaware's called it out, and they drag it right through the middle.
That is so brutal. As soon as I saw Nate acknowledge the members were there, you knew that that was going to be coming through. Foliage taken down with a couple storm arrows to follow up. Zeb backed into a corner. Doesn't get lifted up, gets helped out by Viz, who lifts up the opposition. Their Reinhardt goes down. The May tries to peek the corner despite the blizzard and takes an arrow to the forehead. Both these teams going tooth and nail here. And quite frankly, Delaware is looking just a little bit better.
Yeah, just looking that little bit better so far is, yeah, Delaware now going to have to back up yet again. Big Lenny is not going to get the choice. They're going to get forced back to spawn. And RIT, you know, Viz was that close to getting shattered by the Shatter Twinkle Toes, but just didn't get it. They were up in the air high enough, and that changes the entirety of that fight, because if that ult gets canceled, Delaware can just bring it back. So now as we look at this potential final fight for this B phase, and Pine's just going to back up, knowing they've been had. Diva Bomb's going to be sent over the top. Not going to get much.
Foliage once again taken out of this fight. Dragons are going to be going in, but without RIT forcing a fight, that means the Delaware are feeling a little less pressured to necessarily stay within the threat range of that dragon. Nate throws out the sonar, throws out the dragons as well. Again, another harsh cut separating this team, including that Reinhardt. Seb going to be taken out. Viz might be soon to follow if the rest of their team doesn't back them up. RIT has that Hanzo up high, but Pines might not be long for life.
Yeah, there they go. Not long for life. Maybe, 3 extra seconds they're going to live on King's Row until they get sent back to spawn by Delaware. And so far, man, Delaware's really turning up on this defense. That's my one thing. If you're going to run the Bastion strat, know how to counter it. And they just were not able to on that defense, but now they've really turned it up. And now there's the Photon Barrier going to basically deny anything from that Ant Matrix, and now they're going to use one of their own.
That's the main wall to try to get some equal denial there. Not going to quite connect in the same way, though. But Junao going to be taken down. No immortality field, no burst healing. It's going to have to be the sound barrier. But this staying on this Hanzo like white on rice, taking them down in short order. Twinkle Toes eventually just swung on. Earthshatter is free, gets 2. The distance a little difficult to close, though. Pod and Big Lenny both able to survive at least for a little bit longer. But Pod not going to be able to survive outside of ice.
Yeah, once they get out of the icicle, it's a harsh reality outside, and that cart continues to move. I'm not sure if Delaware is going to be able to touch here, as it will be RIT pushing the agenda. They will not be able to contest for a B phase. Just, I think, like 20 seconds more than what Delaware had on their attack, but they are able to hold this first corner. That was something that during the first round they were not able to do, and now Dragons, what a perfect way to start this third phase defense.
Yeah, nice opportunity to take down that Lucio, meaning that sound barrier not going to be a factor. And now we can see University of Delaware start to get a little bit aggressive here if they want, really start punishing RIT for continuing to take this fight. RIT understands that, and they back off, not allowing those picks to come through.
Yeah, smart soft reset coming from them, and now, basically the same amount of time Delaware had on their attack. Now you have Pine's going to use the Dragons early, going to try and split them up. Pod almost gets taken out. The Icicle saves them. And now the proactive Blizzard with the bomb. Good sound barrier.
It's going to be Seb almost taking a trip off the thing. I didn't think Pod was going to make that wall for a second there. I thought that they were going to be caught in the reload animation. No, however, he can cancel it with that wall coming up. Foliage continuing to try to fire icicles, and RIT is able to make some headway on this cart despite the kills not going their way just yet. It's going to be the Amplification Matrix coming out from Poppy, trying to give their team a little bit of extra punch, try to prevent those respawns from coming in from Delaware as aggressively as Delaware certainly wants. Earthshatter online. Seb, no, somebody has to touch here, and the tanks are going to do it. Delaware, nobody falls to that Earthshatter, so once again, we see another failed main tank ultimate. Storm's Eye continue to try to bully into this Reinhardt shield, but alone Lucio's not going to do it, especially with an arrow through the forehead. Pines eventually having to back away. 2 kills with a boop from Hyper. That's at least a little bit of a highlight for that player.
Yeah, a little bit of a confidence boost. Yeah, so you do have to hold this for about 1.25 minutes, but you also, the only ultimate you used was Sound Barrier, and Pine's somehow able to get out there. And now the trouble is, yeah, Pod will be able to get out as well, as the entire Delaware team's going to be able to get them out. RIT, they used a lot to try and finish the game now. They're only going to have DPS ults. Delaware's going to try and hold it close again, and there's another Dragon, and it gets one.
The Dragon gets one and separates the supports from the tanks, at least enough for a Maywall to get in there and prevent things from landing nicely. Foliage taken down with a nice calm headshot coming in from Nate. Nate tried to connect onto the Lucio, just a little bit too oily, too slimy getting away from them.
Yeah, able just to slide right on out, and now we enter probably final fight, maybe a stall afterward, but our final full fight here. RIT trying to get ready. They do have the Blizzard online, Sound Barrier, and Diva Bomb on the horizon. Delaware have Amp Matrix, but that's really about it. You really got to get value out of this window and not get down early here, and that's a great reset from them.
I thought Foliage was for certain going to have that Blizzard eaten by Big Lenny. Not the case, however, able to get it off. We can see here now the Amplification Matrix coming out for both teams, both looking to punch as heavy as they can going into this last fight. Poppy throwing down that Immortality Field. It goes out early, meaning that Diva Bomb is unanswered. Viz finding one in Nate. That's exactly the kind of play we expect. But Big Lenny returning one of their own, and a 3-man shatter. We were talking about the main tank difference here in ultimates, and that might have been the huge game changer that allows Delaware to really lean in and win this fight, Twin.
Yeah, it looks like that's going to be able to do it, as, yeah, they're trying to deal with Storm on this point. RIT, what a round from, what a round. I'm getting my teams mixed up here. Delaware, sorry, were able to clutch it out, but man, you got RIT continues just to knock on the door, and as soon as, you know, they're almost in, the door is slammed on them as they find themselves down 2-0 in this series after having 2 pretty impressive maps.
See if this is the highlight of a Hyper getting, yep, it is the Sound Barrier into the boop. I want to say I called it, but, you know, I've been in the business a while. I know when play of the games are going to be coming along, you know, as most players in Overwatch do. But so far, a fantastic game. I'm really disappointed RIT didn't win that, not because I want RIT to win, but I just really want this scoreline to reflect the aggression that both of these teams are going at this matchup in.
Yeah, you look at the scoreline, you know, think, oh, maybe it's one of the, you know, 2-0, 3-0 games that we had earlier on in the day, which are always bound to happen. No, these games have been deathly close because Nepal went the distance. Every single round was a 2-1 game. Delaware and Kings Row, same thing. It went the distance. Delaware able to pull it out at the end. And, you know, we talked about the stat line before this game. RIT has either lost every game 0-3 or won every game in 3-0. What is going to budge? Will it either be, all right, we're going to stick to the trend, we're getting swept, or are they going to finally break that trend and, you know, win map 3, and maybe we have a different series on our hands?
Yeah, I definitely think it's going to be a great series here. We are going to be taking a quick little break. I know that certainly I need to catch my breath here, Twin. I don't know about you, but both these teams going at it, I'm sure they'd appreciate just a few minutes to recollect themselves, especially RIT, who now has to come back. Can they do it? Make sure you join us after this break to find out. Hello and welcome back, everyone. University of Delaware, RIT, 2-0 in that respective form, but it has not been a 2-0 game, Twin Salty. It has absolutely been a slobber knocker, a drag-out war.
Yeah, it's been punch for punch every single map. It's just for Delaware, each time they've been on top just by like the slimmest of margins. And you wonder, like, this is obviously going back to like last school year, not even over the fall, but during the 2020-2021 season. Delaware was one of the only teams that took a map off of that RIT team in the regular season. Granted, completely different RIT team now than back then. But they want this win. They want the revenge of last season. They want to finish the job this time around. I think that is just what's getting them over the edge right now because they know they want that revenge and they also want to just improve their standings in the East Conference.
Yeah, I don't think any team's going to be upset about getting a little bit higher in the bracket, a little bit higher in their region, their areas, and having a little bit more of that clout. Because, when you're a little bit better, you get to hold your head just a little bit higher. At least I do.
Oh yeah, you got to flex the muscles a little bit. Granted, I don't have any to flex. But like if you're Delaware, you got to flex them when you can. If you can get this win, you're 3-1 in the East. That is one heck of a start to your conference schedule, and you have a lot more conference games along the way coming up. So, this is a great start to the spring split. You getting that rust. I don't think either of these teams have that much rust. Maybe the main tanks with shatters, maybe just ever so slightly, but other than that, these teams look like they've been practicing for months.
Tend to agree. It doesn't look like any slouches on these teams so far. And as we do look ahead, we do know that we have at least one more game if it goes Delaware's way. If it doesn't, we have more, obviously. But going to be starting off on Hanamura for that 2 control point map style. And what do you think we expect to see here, Twin Salty? Because both these teams seem to prefer that Reinhardt lock. Of course, it was King's Row, so it was kind of a little bit of a guarantee we were going to see that Reinhardt. But neither team in the map we saw before necessarily shying away from it.
Yeah, I want to see maybe like some double shield come out. I know we saw a little bit of it come out in Nepal, but it wasn't too much. And I think that was like, all right, early jitters, just we're going to run double shield, but they swapped off of it after the first round. We haven't seen it since. Maybe some double shield, but I want to see some hit scan action. We've seen a little bit of Cassidy gameplay, a little bit of Hanzo. Maybe some Ashe or some Widow action can be thrown into the mix. I know Torb's not a hit scan. Even Torb on this defense, especially point A, if you can put the turrets in the right spot, it can be really annoying for that offense to deal with. So I just want to see something unique. Throw something at the other team to make them adjust, not the other way around.
Normally, in months past, in metas past, I would ask you, when you say you want to see something unique, does that include the Sim may teleport to point strat, or do you think that that's kind of gone to the well a few too many times already?
I think it depends. If you're going first, you might as well. Like, if you're comfortable with it, try it. But I think if you're going to run it, you need to swap immediately. Like, if you lose that first fight pretty decisively, you need to swap off the Sim, swap off the... Maybe not swap off the Mei, but you definitely swap off the Sim, and you run a different look. Because teams are getting used to countering it. We saw it in a stream earlier today. Teams are running it. It's no shock anymore. So, if it works the first time, awesome. If not, you just have to readjust and reset. I think that's what they've been going for on their offense, at least for right now. And RIT, they're listening. They have something completely different that we have not seen. Pines on the Junkrat. In Foliage, they're going to be doing the pharmacy combo with Poppy.
I like the high explosive capacity coming through here. I've been a fan since I come from Team Fortress 2, so I've always been a fan of Pharah, that soldier gameplay style, just flying into the air with rockets, blasting them onto your opponent's heads. Always a huge fan, but Delaware, not going to have any hit scan to really deal with that. I mean, the Mei can land some icicles, sure. The Sim going to have a tough time landing those right clicks, and Big Lenny's pretty much going to have to commit a lot of focus into that air.
Yeah, Big Lenny and Janao are going to have to both kind of focus down Foliage to a decent degree, but I feel like once they realize this pharmacy's here, they're not even going to try in the TP. They went straight back to spawn. They're changing up their entire composition. And the only person staying is going to be Lenny on the Diva. Everybody else staying the same. So more of like a dive now coming out from Delaware.
Pod using that tracer mobility to get themselves wedged behind a Junkrat. Does kind of pull a little bit of attention from Pines, but not really the push coming through here. Nate on this high ground, has the opportunity to get an early kill, but no, the Mercy healing going to be coming in a little bit too strong and a little bit too rapidly from RIT. However, Pines eventually does get cleaned up, and now these supports might have put themselves in a little bit of an uncomfortable position from RIT. Nestled into this small room means that you're going to be susceptible to a lot of that literal blast damage. Comes in Nate 12 trying to land the shots onto the Pharah, but Nate 12 still taking a good fight considering largely being outnumbered here, and so far RIT not able to hold on to this point. Delaware able to get the initial and secondary ticks. The third doesn't seem far off.
Yo, what a great adjustment from the University of Delaware, realizing, yeah, what we're going to run is not going to work. They instantly go back and swap, and they don't even swap to a hit scan. And, you know, now RIT will. Pines is going to go onto the Ash to try and deal with Nate 12, but don't even go to a hit scan. They trust the dive. Pod is just causing chaos in the back, and Nate 12 was winning that pharmacy duel. And now, as you know, you got 5.5 minutes to try and push here, and now the dive comes into the back line.
No.
And Pines is, yeah, not going to live too long.
And that means that Nate would have had the opportunity to live a little bit stronger in the air. Foliage, however, going counter for counter there. Foliage trying to drop the rocket barrage. Eventually has most of it eaten up by the Diva, but eventually going to be throwing down the opposition as well. Getting down that Winston. The self-destruct comes in trying to clear off point. Big Lenny not able to find anything for it. Gets jostled way back by the return destruct from Viz. You gotta think that Delaware just a little too weak to actually win this. It's a good call to back up here.
Yeah, good call. Back up. Just a very soft reset coming in from Delaware, knowing you don't have to win it right now. You have just over 4.5 minutes. You have plenty of time. Build up to ultimates. And I'm curious to see where this nano goes for Delaware. Is it going to maybe go on Nate so they can survive the barrage? Or is it going to go on a Twinkle Toes to try and build up that Primal Rage and lead on to a Primal Rage? I'm curious to see what their game plan is. It's RIT. All they have is that nano probably going on either Seb or Foliage.
I'm surprised Nate gets the nano boost considering how easily it could have just all been eaten by Viz. Viz, however, not fast enough, and just like that, it looks like University of Delaware going to be leading in strong, but the Earthshatter comes in. Seb able to set themselves up for at least a little bit of delay onto Delaware. Delaware not really going to be too bothered by that as the kill still coming through. That first tick does end up getting achieved, and now the remaining members who are just trying to funnel onto the field from RIT getting jostled around by Diva boops, by Pharah boops. All sorts of concussion coming through here, and Pod trying to just lock onto this Pharah high up in the sky. If the Pharah can't make the direct impacts, it might as well whittle away from a distance. And that Casty on the high ground was looking to be a game changer, but Pines taken down by Nate 12, and just like that, the death cry from Rochester Institute. Not going to be long for this world. Eventually, it's going to all go for Delaware.
Yeah, they just get off. I don't think, it may be a few second difference, but I think Delaware capturing that point. 3.5 minutes left. A very strong effort from them. And RIT just could not adapt to the Pharah and the Tracer well enough. Foliage, I understand you want to stay on the Pharah, but I think eventually I would have liked to see a swap because they were losing the Pharah duel to Nate 12. And now on your offense, it is do or die time. That is, as close as this series has been, that is the worst and the biggest gap I think I've seen between these two teams was that round right there. And Rochester, now they need to close in that gap because it was a really weird to see that gap be as big as it was.
I think I definitely tend to agree, Foley. It's just not looking strong on Pharah, especially considering how long that fight in the initial fight took. Again, granted that RIT had a lot more members invested into it. They had both supports. They had the Pharah. Both the tanks were trying to hold on to point, but it just wasn't enough. Foliage not able to deliver harshly enough, and I think that speaks more so to the skill of Delaware.
Yeah, honestly, Delaware, they've turned on a switch. They took that time out to their advantage, and they have been just pumping out the strats. And now going back to that double shield, we saw it earlier on Nepal round 1. It's going to be exactly back to that. We know they're comfortable with it because they showed it earlier. Will they be able to see the TP coming from RIT as they see the Symmetra? I mean, actually not going to point. They're going to go up top and rotate around. Nothing rotate. Now they're going to go straight to main. And so far, it's about 50-50 if it's going to work or not.
I think the difference here is that Foliage is not going to be on the main, instead on the Cassidy. You don't want to teleport directly to point. Instead, you might be a little bit more favored to give that Cassidy the high ground. And University of Delaware so far not too bothered by it either way. No matter the Cassidy's on high or low, it seems like they're going to get the value from their DPS, not the other way around. Storm was able to get one, but Juno might have a little bit of a shorter walk back.
Yeah, Juno, yeah, it's going to take a little bit for them to get back, but I honestly don't think it's be too big of an issue for Delaware. As, yeah, I loved the idea of teleporting onto the high ground if you're Foliage, but they got taken out like as soon as they entered the TP. They were not able to get any value whatsoever from the teleport. Now they're going to teleport again. They're going to, no, now they're going to go right to point. They get a huge grenade from Junkrat right away, and that allows them to build up that tire, but Stormeye gets two right away.
Stormeye leading in for a good way for the rest of their team. The punch, the boop coming through. Foliage taking the lead after that, taking down the Zenyatta, but Delaware now have only so few members remaining. Eventually that second tick achieved. Third soon on the way, and looks like University of Delaware are gonna have to set up for second.
Yeah, setting up for second point. 5.5 minutes, pretty similar to what Delaware had on their attack. So, you know, if they can get it and capture this point in the next minute or two, we're looking at a pretty even time bank going into overtime, but still plenty of game to be played as they're gonna be looking to go top right. Excuse me, as Pines has Photon Barrier, gonna be looking for it to maybe either set themselves up on point or to try and make this climb up top pretty easy. And I guess they didn't need to go up top because they just go right through.
Gravitic Flux goes on the line, doesn't seem to connect with the majority of RIT, but Seb forced onto the low ground means they are forced into the grave. Now, once again, RIT behind this Proton Barrier just has the opportunity to shoot for free. Instead, they're going to take the opportunity to get themselves nestled into safety. They know they have to get into a position to regroup with Seb.
Yeah, Seb drops down trying to avoid the Gravitic Flux coming in from Big Lenny and ends up being all alone on the low ground. That's a huge D-Mech from Lenny as well. Yeah. Viz out of mech. Going to have to wait even longer here. You got to think, do they try and build the remake, which looks like what they're going to try and do, or do you just jump off and reset? But they're going to wait. They're going to take the time for Viz to do it because it allows everybody from RIT to build up ultimates as well, as long as Viz doesn't pay their life for it. And they have got dangerously close as they're kind of just peeking in and out of this choke.
Yeah, I think Viz definitely looking a little bit discoordinated with their other tank, not necessarily leaning in when Seb has that shield up and ready to apply that pressure, get that extra ult charge. Halt comes in, Twinkle Toes with the turbocharger as well. Viz again peeking ahead of the shield. You can't do that, especially if you're trying to build up a mech, because now you might have built it up. You didn't even build it up. You were at 86% when you dropped, and this is going to take so long for RIT to regroup.
It's so much crucial time. It's basically you had an entire fight just gone because you were sitting waiting for Viz to go back in mech just for them to die. And I think it was like 96% going back to mech. And yes, now they have the mech. Now they can push up high ground, but you've lost a ton of time.
Indeed, you have University of Delaware already favoring in the time bank, and I believe RIT has had just as many fights as them, if not less. Excuse me. It's going to be the tire coming in, Pod 36,000, trying to connect, does get so onto Pines, doesn't bring the Diva out of mech, looks dangerously close, and right now RIT just stuck in this hallway, don't know what they want to do. RIT, I feel like they're just being so indecisive right now.
They're playing really slow, and they're just being, I don't want to say bipolar, but a lot of the times you said they're playing really slow. But then you know times like, all right, we're gonna W, and then somebody will get lost along the way, get picked off, just like we saw in that last fight, and they were kind of stuck in the stairs, like, what do we do? Because you had like 4 or 5 of them in the stairwell. You have a Rip Tower coming from behind them. The rest of the team of Delaware is in front of them. You're stuck. So now even more time off this clock. Over half the time that you've had on this attack is gone, and you've only had like 2 good fights.
Oh no, and just look at this, Seb. Behind the rest of their team, we almost saw Pines take a lot of damage leading to a death. That would have been crucial. RIT now fortunately has the war chest, and they're starting off well with the kill onto the Zenyatta, but they lose Foliage on that casting. He actually tried to throw in the Deadeye, doesn't get anything for it, instead gets buried into the ground, and Nate, despite not having the high ground themselves, able to use that attack device to get the kill onto Storm's Eye, who may have been trying to drop the sound barrier as well. A lot of failed ultimates coming in from RIT. You spend so much time building them, and then to just hiddle them away.
I don't know what the common structure is like, obviously, for RIT right now, but it does not seem organized, as it just, everybody's trying to do a different thing. they have been trying to rotate ults, but they used 4 ults that fight, and they get nothing. And I'm sorry, they used 2 ults, and then they swapped to Poppy now on the Baptiste, Stormeye on the Lucio. But something's got to give at some point. Now you're getting to the point where, like, do we even get an overtime period? You got just under a minute and a quarter left, and you need to capture this now if you want even any chance of winning this map.
Certainly not looking great for RIT. It's going to be the teleporter going up the proton barrier as well. That Junkrat trap connects on to Seb. A lot of damage can go in from just those pills hitting direct impacts. Nothing to prevent that damage. The Transcendence as well coming out from Delaware. See, that's the advantage Delaware has. They didn't use all their ultimates and die with them last fight, so they have them now. We even see the Speed trying to come out from the Storm's Eye just to get away.
Yeah, just able to get out, but she's gonna have to wait for the rest of her team still, as it's just Fizz. And yeah, now you get to the point where, like, all right, we're playing to tie, and obviously that's not a good mental attitude to have, but that's kind of the situation you're stuck with. Delaware, I don't know, they got something going. Pod is popping off on this Junkrat, and I think part of the issue for RIT, they just don't look at him. Like, he's barely getting any pressure. He's just holding off angles and firing shots from away. Big Lenny more just gonna scare him off. And does anybody even touch at this point? Yeah, somebody. No, Pines. They didn't touch it. Okay, we're gonna have a last second touch. Viz, but I don't know. It's looking rough.
The damage has already been done. That amplification matrix coming from the high ground takes just a little bit too long to lock on. Viz not able to be saved. The tire coming out, and I think you nailed it here, Twin. The real huge playmaker there was Pod, just having so much freedom to do whatever they wanted, not being contested, especially on that high ground when it should have been, fairly easy to just remove them.
Yeah, it should have been a lot easier than what it was. Nate's gonna get play of the game, and it was almost like, oh, you're gonna go Pharah? Then I guess I can go Pharah. Like, I can do it. And what a shot that was!
Wow.
Oh my god. And sorry, we didn't get to see that the first time around. That was wow. But Delaware, they turned on the Jets during Hanamura. I don't know, it's like one of their favorite maps, maybe one of RIT's worst, but the gap was as big as it's been this entire series, and well played to Delaware. You guys played fantastic. RIT, it's back to the drawing board. You were that close on 2 of those maps, and I think by the time they had that defense, it just went away from them. It got away from them. I think from that point on, the mentals are just gone.
Yeah, a very tough position to be if you're RIT. You're expecting this to go your way, or at least not go in a total trouncing, but from now on in the history books, all it's going to read is 3-0, and that's going to sting. That's going to hurt a little bit, but I have to agree, Twin. I want to know what was in the brain of Delaware as we headed out towards Hanamura when they really flipped the switch. And fortunately for us, we are going to get to hear from at least 1 or 2 of the members as we have a quick interview. We will be taking a brief break, folks, so make sure you stick around. Interview with University of Delaware after this. Hello, folks, and we are back. We are live, and it's not just Sir Waltham and Twin Salty. It is Sir Waltham, Twin Salty, as well as Hyper. Hyper, hello. How you doing? Congratulations. Excellent gameplay we saw coming out from you and your team here today.
Thank you. Felt amazing. It was a lot of fun, and it's good to be starting up the spring half of the season.
Starting it off strong, I would say. Now, I want to ask because me and Twin Salty were kind of talking about it. One of the themes that we saw for the first half of this matchup was that it actually looked very close between RIT and Delaware for a large portion of this, despite the scoreline just being 3-0. Were you guys like starting to get those little beads of sweat that were coming in when you saw how close those were, particularly Kings Row?
Yeah. I mean, it's just like first season being back or first game being back. There was definitely a lot of nerves. I know I was a little like just shaky at the beginning, just because it's the first time we're playing in, I guess like a month and a half, 2 months now. So we were a little nervous like at first. But when it came down to it, like on certain maps like Kings Row, we were going into last fight and we were really confident just because we have ult tracking and we knew what they had. And so we just we knew we were gonna be able to win that fight. And there's certain fights we know like it's like, okay, we're gonna steamroll this fight. It's gonna be good. So there are times where there's some like beginning nerves, but I think we had it all under control for as much as we could, and then definitely reined it in on Hanamura that last one.
Yeah, there was something you said to us during the break. You guys had two substitutes tonight come in and play. If to us, it did not seem like that at all. Maybe a little bit of miscommunication here and there, but like, how easy was it just for them to kind of sub in and join the team?
No, it's great. Twinkle and Junao joined in, who are our main tank and our flex support, and it was fantastic. Delaware's not back at school yet, so some of our players couldn't come, and we were able to just pull them from um, our reserves basically, and just seam them in basically since Monday. So we just practiced them a couple bits. I play with Junao a lot just because we're friends, and I'll play comp with him, so that was fairly easy. And then Twinkle is just a real quick learner, so he just picks up anything we needed to, and then we just went in with what we had, and we did as best we could.
I mean, the best you could definitely going to be coming up victorious here, so I don't think there's too much to complain about from our ends, from the viewers' ends, from your score lines end. But I want to ask, you said it yourself, the first game of the semester, and one thing I like to get from a player's perspective are there any teams this semester that you're necessarily looking forward to playing, whether it be you're anxious to play them, you think they're going to be your best matchup, you think that they're going to be a real challenge for you? What are your thoughts on some of the teams you might have to fight in the future, Hyper?
It's looking good. We had a really first I think our fall was definitely harder than our spring is going to be. We think this spring is going to have a lot more wins, and we're really looking forward to playing St. John's again. I think we played them twice in the fall and it was close, so I'm looking forward to playing them again. Actually, a lot of fun.
For sure. Looking ahead to next week, you guys play UConn. They had a great showing today. Earlier, you guys are now two teams, upper half of the table, even upper quarter of the table. We'll still have to see how the rest of today shakes up. But how are you guys looking at that game? Because that will be one, especially if you guys can win that. It's huge for the East Conference as well. Just you guys in the overall standings.
Yeah, I think what we tend to do is like we'll go into the weekend, we'll look at it, and then we'll prep throughout next week, and we'll come in. Generally, we have an idea of what we want to do. We'll look at the map pools, figure out stuff, and we should be back with everyone next week because school starts Monday for us. And then I think we can win it. I think we're gonna beat them.
Definitely a matchup to keep eyes out for. Hyper, thank you for coming in, answering a few of our questions, just hanging out with us in general. But before we let you go, I do like to give the opportunity for any shout outs you might have. You, your team, your friends, your family, whoever, you have the floor.
Big two today are definitely subs coming in, Junao and Twinkle. Everybody else that was scrimming and practicing with us, even if we're at home this week, is nice. And then management team, we had some managers step up this week, which is always nice. But that's about it. It's been a good first game.
Well, fantastic. Once again, Hyper, thank you. And in case I haven't said it already, a big congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, folks, we are going to be taking a brief break before we head into DePaul versus University of Colorado. However, if you're not quite done watching some collegiate Overwatch until that next matchup comes. Make sure you tune into our other channels, official EGF for Wichita State versus UT Arlington, or official EGF2 for University of Tennessee, Knoxville, and St. John's, both of which are going to be on Dorado, a map we didn't get to see here, but you could see a map for if you go to those other channels. Make sure you check them out, but when you do, make sure to come right back here once again for DePaul versus University of Colorado. We'll be back in just a little bit, so stick around.